Good evening, everyone. It is Steve Lookner with Agenda Free TV. Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy holidays. I wanted to come on the air and give an update about this story that just broke tonight, several hours ago. I wanted to give an update on it. There's not a lot of news on it, not a lot of details. A lot is unclear about this, but we'll let you know what is being reported on it. The U.S. Launched strikes today on Christmas Day in Nigeria. On ISIS targets. That's according to President Trump and the U.S. military. So U.S. strikes in northwestern Nigeria on ISIS targets. President Trump says that's because ISIS is killing Christians. And he says they need to stop killing Christians. So we want to give you an update on this story and take some of your comments and questions on the air. I'll be checking the chat. You can write to me on X, @Lookner on X. And give me one moment here. Let's see here. Hold on. So we're going to give you the latest updates. We're going to take your comments and questions on the air. Write to me on X, @Lookner on X. I'll check the chat as well. And I really appreciate our moderators being here. We have Ruth is moderating. Thanks so much, Ruth. Leslie Ladyhawk and Roberts May Queen. They are all there over on YouTube. So thank you for moderating over there. And also Linda Belk, Larry, and Misha moderate for us on X. And also our Twitch moderators. Idaho Star is there right now. Thanks so much, Idaho Star. And also thanks to... Hang on a moment here. Thanks to... our Facebook moderators, Kay Lowry Body and Margaret Riley over there moderating right now. Thanks so much. Also, I want to say thanks to Brian Beelman. Brian gave 50 people memberships in the chat. Incredible. That was so nice of him. Thanks, Brian. And if you get a membership or a gift sub from someone, please thank them, whether it's Brian or somebody else. Also, thanks so much to Justin Rochkind. I appreciate you watching and your support, Justin. Thanks also to Low-Key Valkyrie. Thank you, Low-Key Valkyrie. Also, Mr. Pickles. Thanks, Mr. Pickles. Hey, that's very kind of you. Chris Feilbach, who says, Merry Christmas to everyone except ISIS guys in Nigeria. Wow. Thank you, Chris, for supporting the channel. It's very kind of you. Also, thanks to Wendy Cookie M, our member. Hey, Paul G for the memberships. Thanks, Paul. Posiwi and Tallulah A. Bell, our members. Thank you. And also She's a Riddle and Shameless Senpai. And also, hold on a second here. Thanks so much to Sarah for subscribing on Twitch. Thanks so much to Twit or Not for the gift subs on Twitch. That's really nice of you. And also for subscribing. Also, Inter Sandman. Thank you, Inter Sandman. Inter Sandman has just enlisted in the Army, he said, U.S. Army. Thank you for your service and for watching Inter Sandman. Best of luck to you and thank you for your service, Inter Sandman. Again, Merry Christmas to everyone. And happy holidays. And we're going to give you an update right now. Thanks, Dodger Blue, to you for being a member as well. All right. So here is the latest. In case you didn't see it, so let's start with what President Trump said, in case you didn't see it. So President Trump said, and he announced this about 6 p.m. Eastern Time, he said, tonight at my direction as Commander-in-Chief, the United States launched a powerful and deadly strike against ISIS terrorist scum in northwest Nigeria, in Africa that is, who have been targeting and viciously killing primarily innocent Christians at levels not seen for many years, Trump says, and even centuries. I have previously warned these terrorists that if they did not stop the slaughtering of Christians, there would be hell to pay, and tonight there was. The Department of War executed numerous perfect strikes, as only the United States is capable of doing. Under my leadership, our country will not allow radical Islamic terrorism to prosper. May God bless our military, and Merry Christmas to all, including the dead terrorists, of which there will be many more if their slaughter of Christians continues. Now, there's a bunch of interesting aspects to this whole thing. One thing that struck me about the whole thing is this interesting. So this is, yes, President Trump says that the U.S. has attacked ISIS. But note what the reason given for attacking ISIS is. It's not that we're attacking ISIS because ISIS is going to carry out an attack on the U.S., for example. That would be one reason you might want to attack ISIS. He doesn't mention that. The specific reason given for this strike is that ISIS is targeting Christians, not in America, in Nigeria, which is quite interesting. And also he says that they will get attacked again if they don't stop killing Christians in Nigeria, right? So it says, where does it say it specifically? I have previously warned these terrorists that if they did not stop the slaughtering of Christians, there would be hell to pay. So it's a very interesting rationale. Because you hear like the U.S. launches strikes on ISIS and you might think, oh, well, that's because ISIS is maybe planning some attack on the U.S. or something. But the reason given is that ISIS is killing Christians in Nigeria. I'm not telling you whether you have to support this, or I'm not telling you to support it or not support it. I'm just making a point about what the actual reasoning is being given, which I find quite interesting. It's one of these things where it's an attack by the U.S. military, but it's not against someone who's actively attacking. It's not against somebody who's actively attacking Americans or America. Now, there may be some Americans there, but the reason given, I think you can clearly see, is about attacks on Christians in Nigeria. So again, it's interesting. Now, 9875 thinks an excuse, not a reason. So there's all these different aspects of this that are debated. 9875, our viewer, thinks maybe there's a different reason. I saw something online, some sort of claim that maybe it's not really going after ISIS over the Christians. Maybe it's really going after ISIS because there's a worry about ISIS expanding in Africa or something. So that's a whole other thing. There's another aspect of this, and again, this is not a part of the world I am fluent in, and I am not an expert on these debates, but there's this whole other aspect to this of, is this kind of military action, should this military action constitutionally be approved by Congress? Does the president have the legal right to carry out this specific military action? That's a whole other question. I'm not telling you what to think about it. So it's a quite interesting aspect. Also, it's in Nigeria. I don't know, has the U.S. ever launched strikes in Nigeria before? Does anyone know? Has the U.S. ever launched military strikes in Nigeria before today? I'm looking this up. I don't know if I'll get a clear answer. Callie Voltaire says, I don't think so. Was today the first time? I don't want to say yes because I'm not sure, but it might have been. It certainly doesn't happen often lately. So that's very interesting. And also, Nigeria itself. I think isn't it the most populated country in Africa? The population of Nigeria is 236 million people. Yes. Well, hold on a second. It's the most populous country in Africa, and also it has a big. Not that this matters, or I don't know if it does. Nigeria is really big in oil production, right? I hope I don't get this wrong. Hang on, I got to get a list. Oil extraction. Yeah, I mean, well, here's a list of countries by oil extraction. Is that total? Or is that annual? I don't even know. Oh, barrels a day. So this is barrels a day. So in theory, 15 Nigeria. So, and then I wonder if there's like world's biggest reserves. How about reserves? Where are they there? Oil reserves. Venezuela is one. Nigeria has, according to Wikipedia, looks like about the 11th or 12th most oil proven reserves. I'm not telling you that, I think 11. Anyways. So, most populous country in Africa. Okay, so I want to take some comments from you on this, and I'm going to show you, here's what the U.S. Africa Command said. U.S. Africa Command conducts strike against ISIS in Nigeria. Now, another interesting aspect, our viewer J.C. Ignacio says the strikes are in coordination with the Nigerian government. Now, I believe the Nigerian government said something like that. But then you have the question, are they really in coordination with the Nigerian government? Or did the U.S. basically say, we're doing this, and Nigeria's like, okay? Or did the U.S. just do it and tell Nigeria after the fact, and they're like, well, and just Nigeria doesn't want to look bad, so they just say, well, we're going to say we did it in coordination with the U.S. government. I don't know. I don't know. So there's what's said and what's actually the case. I don't know. I'll let you know what the government said, too. And our viewer, Seed Music, says Nobel Prize incoming in 3, 2. Let's see here. Yatok says U.S. has substantial influence in Nigeria. Mr. Muscle said, did Nigeria ask for help in the strikes, or was this done without the knowledge of the Nigerian government? I'll tell you what Nigeria said, but that someone could still question that, how that all worked too. Okay. All right. Let's talk. I'll take some more comments, but let's talk. Let's just get through what the U.S. said about this in Nigeria. By the way, thanks, Louis R. That's very generous of you. Wow, Louis R. That's really kind of you. Thanks for your support, Louis R. I really appreciate it. And thanks for your nice note. Louis R., thanks for your support, and thanks for shouting out the mods. Louis R. wishes everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. It's very kind of you. By the way, our viewer Justin Winch says Nigeria is about lithium and silver. Yeah, so just a moment here. Let me just point something out. Isn't there something, what resources does Nigeria have? I'm going to look this up a little later. Do they have, I didn't know if they're like mineral rich. I have to look this up. I have to look it up. Well, let's get into that a little later. But a fair thing to get into in a little bit. Thanks to Justin Winch. Also thanks to Matthew Bradford. The THX 1974 gave 10 people memberships. That's very nice of you. Thanks, Louis Belmont Show. Louis Belmont Show says Trump is demanding he should be impeached, removed, and thrown in prison for all these war crimes he is committing. Thank you, Tim Glenn. who says Deus Vult type of attack. I'm reading online, that's an expression used in various contexts. It's sometimes used, it's historically a powerful religious call to arms. Well, I think maybe Tim Glenn is referring to the religious aspect of this, which we'll talk about more. Thank you, Tim Glenn. Thank you, AJ, for being a member. Thanks to THX1974, Josh Trapp 6819, Lysol Lyrics, 318 FNL, Samurai Projects, and Reaction APR, and who says, might write Merry Christmas on the Tomahawks and J-Dams, and thanks FDNY for your support. Who says, U.S. has a good relationship with Nigeria. I highly doubt the Nigerian government wants anything to do with ISIS. Thanks, Julia Gulia, also, and TDO417, thank you. And Big Dog Gaming as well. I had to catch up on my thank you, sorry. Thank you. And Shraki and Cece, thank you. All right, so let's go over, I know there's a bunch of interesting aspects of this. So let's go over the official statements about it. Then we can get into the other aspects of this. But again, this is in Nigeria. Nigeria is I'll show you on a map too. Look, this is a nice map from the Washington Post. They have an article on this we'll talk about in a second. But you can see there's Africa, and there in the red square, that's Nigeria. That's this map in here. That's where it is in Africa, in the red square. And then we're talking about Nigeria, and this was in Islamic State targets in Sokoto State, which is in northwest Nigeria there. Okay. Now, also, eOddity says maybe we can look up the numbers, if any, of so-called Christians that have been harmed in Nigeria. So, another aspect of this whole thing is there is this debate about to what degree. So there have been lots of killings of civilians in Nigeria, including Christians, okay? That is a problem, the killing of civilians by armed groups. However, there is a debate over to what degree religion plays a role in those killings. Some experts say, well, religion is actually a small factor, and most of the killings are done for causes other than religion. So that's a whole other debate in this whole thing. So I think that's what our viewer was talking about. So we'll talk about that as well. And by the way, just to point this out, Brian Beelman just gave 50 more people memberships, which is incredible. So make sure you thank Brian or anybody else who gave you a membership or subscription. But thank you, Brian. That's very kind of you, Brian Beelman. Thank you. All right. Now, so let me just read it one more time, just so we're on the same page. Then we'll show you what the military said. President Trump said, tonight at my direction as Commander-in-Chief, the United States launched a powerful and deadly strike against ISIS terrorist scum in northwest Nigeria, who have been targeting and viciously killing primarily innocent Christians at levels not seen for many years and even centuries. I have previously warned these terrorists that if they did not stop the slaughtering of Christians, there would be hell to pay, and tonight there was. The Department of War executed numerous perfect strikes, as only the United States is capable of doing. Under my leadership, our country will not allow radical Islamic terrorism to prosper. May God bless our military, and Merry Christmas to all, including the dead terrorists, of which there will be many more if their slaughter of Christians continues. And again, I want to point out, the reason given for this attack is that ISIS is killing Christians in Nigeria. That is the reason President Trump gives for the attack, is that ISIS is killing Christians in Nigeria. Okay, now, here is what the military said. U.S. Africa Command. U.S. Africa Command conducts strike against ISIS in Nigeria. At the direction of the President of the United States and the Secretary of War. And now this says in coordination with Nigerian authorities. So that makes it sound like this coordinated thing. How coordinated was it? I don't know. I don't know. Were they sitting there planning the whole thing together or not? I don't know. But the U.S. government is saying it was coordination with the Nigerian authorities. U.S. Africa Command conducted strikes against ISIS terrorists in Nigeria today in Sokoto State. Here is the press release. At the direction of the President of the United States and the Secretary of War, and in coordination with Nigerian authorities, U.S. Africa Command conducted strikes against ISIS terrorists in Nigeria in December 25th, 2025 in Sokoto State. The command's initial assessment is that multiple ISIS terrorists were killed in the ISIS camps. That's their initial assessment. We don't have details on this. That's an initial assessment. There's no video I've seen that's publicly released of it or photos. I can't tell you those details. I just don't know. U.S. Africa Command is working with Nigerian and regional partners to increase counterterrorism cooperation efforts related to ongoing violence and threats against innocent lives, said the commander of U.S. Africa Command. Our goal is to protect Americans and disrupt violent extremist organizations wherever they are. Interestingly, I don't see the mention of Christianity specifically in this military announcement. It talks about counterterrorism, protecting Americans and disrupting violent extremist organizations wherever they are. Not that that can't include attacking them for going after Christians in Nigeria, but that is not mentioned specifically here. U.S. Africa Command will continue to assess the results of the operation and will provide additional information as appropriate. Specific details about the operation will not be released in order to ensure operational security. So there you go. Don't be expecting specific details from the military about this. They will not be released in order to ensure operational security. Okay, there's more from the government. Let me take a couple comments, though. Let's see here. Jay Hitchcock says the entire country of Nigeria is not against Christians. There are large numbers of Christians in Nigeria. It's interesting. Nigeria, it's, what is it, roughly half and half or slightly more than half Muslim, and then the rest Nigeria. According to Wikipedia, 56% is Muslim, 43% Christian. 56% Muslim, 43% Christian. Okay. Let's see here. Let's see here. I want to take a couple more comments. I want to show you the rest of the U.S. government comments and also what Nigeria said about this. B. Earhart thinks this wasn't the first or last time that ISIS attacked Christianity. N. Dot says religion is used to do the worst things in history. Rapunzel, our viewer, says, what happened to no new wars? Another question here is, I mean, are there gonna be follow-up strikes? You know, is there a risk of a much greater U.S. military involvement in or Nigeria? You know, or was this just kind of a token operation? We don't know the specifics. Maybe a few missiles were fired at some remote outposts, and that'll be it. Or maybe it's more, maybe it was a bigger operation than that. What can I say? I don't know. We don't have the specifics. All right, let me show you what the Department of Defense / Department of War and also Pete Hegseth said about this. We haven't even shown you all the official statements on it. The Department of Defense / Department of War did post a short video clip of something being launched off a ship. So here's that. Can't really tell much what's going on. Tonight at my direction of... sorry. This is just... They quote the president. Whoa. So loud. We got to turn that down. Hold on. There you go. They didn't even describe the video. They just posted the video. I don't think they described the video. Did they? No. There's no description of the video. It's just says unclassified. It's like a missile being fired. But by the way, this is a loop. It's not, you're just seeing, it's like a 9-second loop. Can I freeze the frame? Right there. There, you see it right there. But they don't go into detail. And here's what Secretary Hegseth said about this. He said, the president was clear last month. The killing of innocent Christians in Nigeria and elsewhere must end. The Department of War is always ready, so ISIS found out tonight on Christmas. More to come. Grateful for Nigerian government support and cooperation. Merry Christmas. Another thing I'd be interested in is, has the U.S. in the past, and if so, how often in the past has the U.S. carried out military strikes in another country to defend members of a certain religion in that country? Not Americans. And I'm not telling you, I'm not saying to support this or not support this. It's just an interesting question to me. I don't know the answer. Distant Galaxy thinks it's not very often. So again, I just want to, it's very interesting because when you hear this as ISIS, you might think, okay, so this is just another strike on ISIS, right? But, and ISIS is threatening the U.S. But the given reasoning for this strike by President Trump is that ISIS is targeting and viciously killing Christians. And he said, I have previously warned ISIS if they did not stop the slaughtering of Christians, there would be hell to pay, which implies that if they weren't killing Christians in Nigeria, these strikes today would not have happened. I mean, that's just what he says. So it's very interesting. Okay. And then Hegseth, so he actually, it's helpful that he posted this. This is what President Trump said back on, was this back in November? Yeah, on November 1st, President Trump said, on or before November 1st, President Trump said, if the Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians, the USA will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria and may very well go into that now disgraced country guns a-blazing to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible atrocities. I am hereby instructing our Department of War to prepare for possible action. Now, this was about 2 months ago. If we attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet. just like the terrorist thugs attack our terrorist Christians, warning the Nigerian government better move fast. So, I mean, if you read that, then the strike today implies that the Nigerian government wasn't moving fast enough. But the U.S. military said it was done in coordination with Nigeria. Back on November 1st, Pete Hegseth said in response to this, "Yes, sir, the killing of innocent Christians in Nigeria and anywhere must end immediately. The Department of War is preparing for action. Either the Nigerian government protects Christians, or we will kill the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible atrocities." That was on November 1st, he said that. Okay. Let me just show you what the Nigerian government had to say. I have it right here. Then I'll take some comments from you guys. And then we'll read about some more about what happened here. So look at some reporting on this. Here is what the Nigerian Ministry of Foreign Affairs had to say about this. This is the Nigerian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Nigeria, United States Security Cooperation and Intelligence Collaboration hits at terrorist targets in Nigeria. So Nigeria's government is portraying this as very cooperative. Now, maybe it was very cooperative. On the other hand, maybe it wasn't that cooperative, but the Nigerian government probably thinks it doesn't look great politically if the U.S. is just unilaterally carrying out military strikes in Nigeria. So again, I don't know. This might have been very coordinated, or maybe the Nigerian government is just portraying it that way for political reasons. Beats me, no idea. Anyways, here's what the Nigerian government had to say about this. Oops, make this a little bigger for you. Hold on. There it is. There it is. Okay. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Federal Republic of Nigeria confirms that Nigerian authorities remain engaged in structured security cooperation with international partners, including the United States of America, in addressing the persistent threat of terrorism and violent extremism. This has led to precision hits on terrorist targets in Nigeria by airstrikes in the Northwest. Literally, the first thing they say is not that there have been military strikes. The first thing in the press release is that the Nigerian government is engaged with its partners. So they're really emphasizing, like, we're in control here, we're being engaged. They're really portraying this as not, oh, some other country just carried strikes out inside our borders. Okay, they say, in line with established international practice and bilateral understandings, meaning both sides, U.S. and Nigeria. This cooperation includes in Nigeria and other countries. This cooperation includes the exchange of intelligence, strategic coordination, and other forms of support consistent with international law, mutual respect for sovereignty, and shared commitments to regional and global security. Nigeria reiterates that all counterterrorism efforts are guided by the primacy of protecting civilian lives, safeguarding national unity, and upholding the rights and dignity of all citizens, irrespective of faith or ethnicity. Now, this is interesting. Terrorist violence in any form, whether directed at Christians, Muslims, or other communities, remains an affront to Nigeria's values and to international peace and security. Little background here. I am not an expert on this region, but I do know that while armed groups have killed many people in Nigeria recently, a lot of those people are Muslims and not Christians. Remember the strikes by the U.S. today that Trump announced, President Trump, he said it was against ISIS because ISIS was killing Christians. He didn't talk about ISIS killing Muslims. But note what it says here in the Nigerian statement. It says, hey, we're committed to going after terrorist violence, irrespective of what faith they're attacking. Irrespective of faith or ethnicity. Terrorist violence in any form, whatever, directed at Christians, Muslims, or other communities, remains an affront to Nigeria's values and into international peace and security. So I don't know if I'm not an expert on Nigeria. I don't know if there's some sensitive, if they think it might be a sensitive thing in Nigeria because if they say they cooperated with the U.S. on this effort to protect Christians, will the Muslims, who many of them have been killed by armed groups in Nigeria, is there a risk the Muslims in the country will say, well, why aren't you protecting us? Why are you specially protecting the Christians and ignoring us? So you can see here they're really saying, I don't know if that's the reason, but they're really going out of their way to say this is not about just protecting Christians. Okay. The federal government continues to work closely with its partners through established diplomatic and security channels to weaken terrorist networks, disrupt their financing and logistics, and prevent cross-border threats while strengthening Nigeria's own security institutions and intelligence capabilities. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs will continue to engage relevant partners and keep the public informed through appropriate official channels. So that's what they had to say. But it's quite interesting. But they are certainly portraying themselves as being in control of the operation, exercising a lot of oversight of the operation, and saying that they're protecting all religions and ethnicities. Okay, so that's interesting. All right, let me take some comments from you guys as I put President Trump's original statement back up there. There's his original statement. By the way, thanks to Red Squirrel, our member, and for giving a membership. Thanks Space Fraggle for shouting out our moderators. Thanks Lexa Fulmer for being a member for 45 months. Thanks also Artificial Idiot on Twitch. All right. Super Donk thinks it's about keeping China out. That's what Super Donk thinks. Simbali says distraction. Let's see here. Bree Fitz says, Trump knows what he's doing. This will stop any refugees from coming and destroying American cities. Have to keep it equal in crap countries. That's what Bree Fitz said. Let's see here. Hang on a moment. Fubar X thinks 50,000 plus Christians have been killed since 2009 in Nigeria. I don't know about those figures. I'll have to try to look up some figures. There are debates. Well, again, one big debate, as I said before, there's an active debate over when civilians, Christian or not, are killed in Nigeria by armed groups, how big a factor is religion? Some experts say that other factors are much bigger than religion. But I will show you some more about that. Tina says, how is any of this our business? Alex thinks it's all political. All right, let me show you some of the reporting on this now. Let's see here. There was actually the Washington Post article had some good background on this, I thought. But let me start with this one. Here's an AP article on this. Oh, and thanks so much again to, that's really nice of you, Brian Beelman. Oh, I owe a couple thank yous. Brian Beelman, thank you so much, Brian. That's really kind of you. Thanks, Brian. And also 86 GOP Forever. Thank you, 86 GOP Forever. That's really, really nice of you. 86 GOP Forever. And also 86 GOP Forever gave 50 people memberships. Wow. So between Brian and huge number of memberships between Brian Beelman and 86 GOP Forever. Thank you so much. Make sure you thank somebody if they give you a membership or a gift subscription. It's very kind of you. All right, let's check out. I'd like to give you a little more background on this whole situation. Trump says U.S. struck Islamic State targets in Nigeria after group targeted Christians. And I just want to say this again. I repeat myself sometimes because people come in and out of the stream. But I do think this is an important part of this story. Very important. The stated reason for this U.S. military attack in Nigeria is that ISIS was targeting Christians in Nigeria, which is very interesting. That's using the military to protect Christians in Nigeria. I'm not telling you what to think about that. I just think that's an interesting aspect of the whole story. So President Trump said today the U.S. launched a powerful and deadly strike against ISIS forces, Islamic State in Nigeria, after spending weeks accusing the Nigeria's government of failing to rein in the persecution of Christians. A whole other question here is, so for the people who think, one of our viewers said everything is political or is all political, is to what degree is an action like this directed at, or to what degree does maybe President Trump lead towards an action like this because he has a strong Christian base of support? I have no idea. That's another question you could ask. Hold on a second here. Where did my story go? It happened on Christmas too. In a Christmas evening post on his social media site, President Trump did not provide details or mention the extent of damage caused by the strikes. A Department of Defense official said the U.S. worked with Nigeria to carry out the strikes and that they had been approved by that country's government. If the U.S. that maybe that's true, or maybe the U.S. says we're going to carry out these strikes. Is Nigeria going to really say no? I don't know. I told you the Nigeria Ministry of Foreign Affairs statement. They said that there was cooperation. Trump said the airstrikes were launched against ISIS militants who have been targeting and viciously killing primarily innocent Christians. Residents and security analysts have said Nigeria's security crisis affects both Christians who are predominant in the south and Muslims who are the majority in the north. Nigeria is battling multiple armed groups, including at least 2 affiliated with the Islamic State, an offshoot of the Boko Haram extremist group known as the Islamic State West Africa Province in the northeast, and the less-known Lakurawa group, prominent in the northwestern states like Sokoto, where the gangs use large swaths of forest connecting states as hideouts. Security analysts said the target of the U.S. strikes today could be the Lakurawa group, which in the last year has increasingly become lethal in the region, often targeting remote communities and security forces. An expert, a Nigerian security researcher, Malik Samuel, said Lakurawa is a group that is actually controlling territories in Nigeria, in Sokoto State, and in other states like Kebbi. In the northwest, there has been the incursion of violent extremist groups that are ideologically driven, he said, blaming the incursion in the region on the near absence of the state and security forces in hotspots. Nigeria's government has previously said in response to Trump's criticisms that people of many faiths, not just Christians, have suffered attacks at the hands of extremist groups. Trump ordered the Pentagon last month to begin planning for potential military action in Nigeria to try and curb the so-called Christian persecution. The State Department recently announced it would restrict visas for Nigerians and their family members involved in killing Christians there. And the U.S. recently designated Nigeria the U.S. recently designated Nigeria a country of particular concern under the International Religious Freedom Act. Okay, a little more background here. Nigeria's population of 220 million, biggest population in Africa, is almost equally split between Christians and Muslims. The country has long faced insecurity from various fronts, including the Boko Haram extremist group, which seeks to establish its radical interpretation of Islamic law, and has also targeted Muslims who it deems not Muslim enough. But attacks in Nigeria often have various motives. There are religiously motivated ones targeting both Christians and Muslims. There are also clashes between farmers and herders over dwindling resources. There are also attacks due to communal rivalries, secessionist groups, and ethnic clashes. You know, it's an interesting article. I'm just going to finish reading it. There's some good background here. The U.S. security footprint has diminished in Africa, where military partnerships have either been scaled down or canceled. U.S. forces likely would have to be drawn from other parts of the world for any larger scale military intervention in Nigeria. Would the Trump administration consider any larger scale military intervention in Nigeria? I don't know. Trump has nonetheless kept up the pressure as Nigeria has faced a series of attacks on schools and churches and violence that experts and residents say targets both Christians and Muslims. So again, there's this debate in this whole thing of how much of the violence. Certainly Christians have been affected by violence in Nigeria, but how much of that is due to them being targeted specifically for their Christianity, or how much is due to violence due to other causes? So that's a whole part of this as well, that debate. Okay, that's from AP, by the way. Let me take some more comments from you guys here. Will there be more of these kind of strikes? I have no idea. Let's see. Thanks to Christine Gagnon, by the way. I appreciate it. Gina Tucker thinks none of it is the business of the U.S. Whole other interesting question is this, I'm sure we have different opinions in our chat and different opinions of the country as to whether the U.S. should be conducting military strikes to defend a religious group in another country. Again, I'm not telling you what to think about it. That kind of thing is, military actions get debated in this country. Should we be doing this kind of thing or not? Let's see. And Manchester is Red Forever said, why did the president fail to mention Muslims being killed? Wayback Rock thinks so. ISIS won't bother either groups now. How much of an impact will these strikes have? That I do not know. Let's see here. Jane Jones says, I didn't know America goes to war over deaths of Christians. I do remember, I was thinking back to, didn't the U.S. a few months ago carry out, or was it Israel? Maybe it was Israel. I think it was Israel. I gotta remember this. What was I thinking about? Syria? Actually, wasn't it Syria or was it the U.S.? Wasn't it Israel? When there were strikes, did the U.S. carry out any strikes in Syria a few months ago when there was infighting in Syria? I can't remember. It was either Israel or the U.S. who did. Because I was trying to think of a parallel situation when the U.S. carried out strikes in another country to defend a group in that country. And I can't remember if the U.S. was involved or if it was only Israel. Some of our viewers said to protect the Druze. Let's see if I can find this quickly. Israel, I think it did it. If I have this right. In July 2025, Israel launched strikes in southern Syria, claiming to protect the Druze minority from attacks by Syrian government forces. I'm seeing that. Google AI said that. I'm seeing, also I'm seeing other, like Reuters back in July posted that and reported that Israel carried out strikes against Syrian government forces, vowing to keep the area demilitarized and protect the Druze. So I don't see anything about the U.S. doing that. But I don't, so again, I was just, what I was trying to think of is, it's very interesting that this is a U.S. military action in another country to protect a group in that country. Not a group of Americans, although there could be some Americans there. A specific religious group. And I was trying to think of a parallel. But this wasn't a U.S. attack. Okay, hold on. Thanks, by the way, to our moderators. I really appreciate our moderators. We have Leslie Ladyhawk is moderating. Ruth is moderating. Cynthia Moon is moderating. Thank you. Oops. Also over there on Twitch, Idaho Star and Sarah. And Kay Lowry Body. And... we have Margaret Riley on Facebook. Thanks for moderating over there. Thanks, by the way, to Randy Economy for subscribing on Facebook. Thanks, Randy. And Marie Goodson Hamilton for subscribing on Facebook. Thank you. And also Linda Belk, Larry, and Misha over on X. Thanks also to Aaron S. for your support. I really appreciate that, Aaron. And also FDNY. Did I thank FDNY before? FDNY says, for those confused, ISIS is still bad 15 years later. We're still at war with them. It never ended. Don't forget who did Afghan withdrawal attack. That's what FDNY says. Thanks, Cynthia Moon, for being a member. All right, let's give you some more on this. And hold on a second here. Orange Man Good thinks the U.S. is slowly leaving the world stage. Now, this doesn't seem like leaving the world stage, this incident right here. Although maybe you argue, well, it's a small strike and it's not ground forces or something. Our viewer, Brandon Harbin, says, we are a Christian nation, no matter if y'all like it or not. We will protect and should protect Christians. We'll do a poll question. Will there be more U.S. military action in Nigeria? Hang on. Let's post this. Will there be more U.S. military action in Nigeria? And again, is this the first time the U.S. has ever carried out military strikes in Nigeria? I guess at least overt ones. Who knows what happens with like covert operations. But is this the first publicly acknowledged U.S. strike ever in Nigeria? That I don't know. Let's see what you guys have to say about this. All right. I am going to show you the poll result right now. There it is. I can see it over there. Here is what people on YouTube have to say. Wow. Oops, it disappeared on me. Now it's back. 82% on YouTube says yes, say yes, there will be more U.S. military action in Nigeria. And now how about Twitch? Facebook, I'm sorry, they haven't fixed the polls yet on Facebook. It's sad. They used to work over there. Okay, over on Twitch, wow, it's almost the same. 85% on Twitch think there will be more U.S. military action in Nigeria. Pops thinks there's going to be military activity in Venezuela at midnight. That's what Pops said. Don't forget about Venezuela. David Letts thinks there will be more if necessary. Chemo thinks it's about the oil. I think they're around like the 15th biggest oil producer. We looked that up before. I will say this. Hang on a second here. Thanks for voting in our poll, by the way. Hold on a second here. Hey, by the way, you know what? Let's look at a little bit here. I want to show you something here. So nicely, I spoke to the people at Encyclopedia Britannica. And so we have a little arrangement where periodically I can check out an Encyclopedia Britannica article and show it to you. So for example, I was wondering, like, you know, people have been talking about the economy of Nigeria. So I was like, let's just look this up for a second and look at a couple of things here. You can go to Britannica.com and check this stuff out. I like Encyclopedia Britannica. So I appreciate them letting us use their encyclopedia. But again, Britannica.com. I'll post a link in the chat to the article itself. You can check them out over there. But you can see it says, since the late 1960s, the economy of Nigeria has been based primarily on the petroleum industry. Okay? Petroleum industry. All right, so I wanted to mention that. And then there was something else here. You can look at the whole history of a recent history of their economy there. And then they did say also, they talked about gas resources. They say Britannica says, there are vast reserves of natural gas in Nigeria. Nigeria has become a globally ranked exporter of this commodity. Production has often been interrupted by protests as the inhabitants of the oil-producing regions have demanded a larger share of the revenues. Let's see. So they talk about, I wonder if they talk about precious metals or something. Or minerals. Do they talk about that at all? Oh, here. Resource extraction is the most important sector of the economy. The most economically viable minerals are crude oil, natural gas, coal, tin, and columbite, an iron-bearing mineral that accompanies tin. Petroleum, first discovered in 1956, is the most important source of government revenue and foreign exchange. And again, there are also vast reserves of natural gas. They talk about other mined minerals include gypsum, kaolin, barite, gold, sapphires, topazes, and aquamarines. There are also uranium deposits in the country. Anyways, if you want to check out more on that article, I'll post the link again. But thanks to Britannica for letting us check that out. I want to give you some more background on these strikes. Thanks for voting in our poll, by the way. All right, we are covering here. Boy, I'd really like to find out, is this the first time? Hold on. Let me, you can ask AI these things and you don't know if you're going to get a right answer. Hang on a second here. Ooh, one moment. One of our viewers just said, E-Oddity says, why isn't Nigeria rich? So Google AI says that the U.S. has helped ISIS the U.S. has helped the Nigerian government in recent years with support against Boko Haram and ISIS West Africa. But at least I asked Google AI and it didn't come up with Gemini, any other case of direct U.S. military action in Nigeria. I don't know if that's true. It might be the first time that there's been direct U.S. military action in Nigeria. Hold on. Our viewer Laco Nikos says having resources is one thing, profiting from it is another. That's a good question about their economy. Give me 1 second here. I don't want to get too far afield, but while we're talking about it, so I would have to look this up and verify this. Just to get an answer, an initial answer, or a thought about what an answer might be. For example, Gemini AI asked, and they talked about there's corruption issues, over-reliance on volatile oil prices, infrastructure deficits, insecurity, inconsistent policies, also rapid population growth that outpaces economic expansion. Those are some factors that might be issues. Again, I'd have to really get into it and research it. And just to give another AI perspective, asking ChatGPT, it says over-reliance on oil and oil prices are unpredictable. The oil sector doesn't employ that many people, relatively few, and other sectors have been neglected. Weak institutions and governance, power and infrastructure failures, rapid population growth, job creation can't keep up, problems with insecurity, underdeveloped manufacturing base, currency problems and inflation. So anyways, without getting into it, those very well might be some factors involved in the economy. But I thought it's an interesting question. Okay, that aside, let's get back to the strikes and talk some more about those. And just to recap, President Trump announced strikes in Nigeria against ISIS, which may be the first time the U.S. military has struck directly in Nigeria. Nigeria, the most populous African country. And President Trump said the strikes were carried out because ISIS was killing Christians. And they need to stop killing Christians. That's what he said. So he said, tonight at my direction as Commander-in-Chief, the U.S. launched a powerful and deadly strike against ISIS terrorist scum in northwest Nigeria, who have been targeting and viciously killing primarily innocent Christians at levels not seen for many years and even centuries. I have previously warned these terrorists that if they did not stop the slaughtering of Christians, there would be hell to pay, and tonight there was. The Department of War executed numerous perfect strikes, as only the United States is capable of doing. Under my leadership, our country will not allow radical Islamic terrorism to prosper. May God bless our military, and Merry Christmas to all, including the dead terrorists, of which there will be many more if the slaughter of Christians continues. So again, he is saying that these strikes happened because ISIS was targeting Christians, and there's also the implication here that there won't be more strikes if ISIS stops killing Christians. It implies it twice, right at the end. There will be many more if their slaughter of Christians continues. Okay, so that's what President Trump said. And just to remind you, Africa, the U.S. military had a brief statement. They said they were not going to give specific details about the operation. They said the command's initial assessment is that multiple ISIS terrorists were killed in the camps, in the ISIS camps. That's what the U.S. military said. And our viewer Ranchways thinks Trump does more for Christians than the Pope. That's what Ranchways said. Our viewer Uder, it's a bunch of consonants. Riba says Department of War from the No New Wars guy. Otis says based we are so back. Okay, and now both Nigeria and the U.S. government said they were cooperating in this attack. You can see here, the U.S. military says in coordination with Nigerian authorities. Super Donk says just a few new wars. D-Boy says, how many Christians have been killed in Nigeria? So we'll get into some of that in a second. I'm not an expert on this. I want to talk a little more about specifics, give you a little background. But let's get a little more reporting on this. Again, this happened in Sokoto State. That is a map from the Washington Post. This is in Africa, and you can see Nigeria there. And Sokoto State in Northwest Africa is what we're talking about. By the way, thanks so much to Got Me Some, who says, are we trying to give Nigeria some democracy and steal their petroleum? Some of our viewers think this might somehow be connected to Nigerian oil or other natural resources. Thanks, I Am Charlie, by the way, for your support and for being a member for the gift memberships. I Am Charlie, thank you. And also Bunby. Okay, hold on a moment. Let's see here. And as our viewer Barry mentions, it's about half Muslim and half Christian in Nigeria. Clancy Knocked, our viewer, thinks it's probably about a lot of things. R.M. Gibbs says, this is not about their petroleum. We don't need it. Luna Walker says, it's on. All right, let me show you some more background on this. Hang on a moment. Matt Kinney says Trump has launched military action against 8 countries in a year, just saying. Karen Leah Holland says Christians are being targeted. All right, the Washington Post had some background in their article. I want to mention them. We won't read the whole thing. I'll kind of skim through some of it. But this is the Post update on it. They said U.S. forces struck Islamic State targets in northwestern Nigeria after threats by President Trump to attack the country in an effort to stop killings of Christians. Oh, I should mention this. So President Trump, a couple months ago, started talking about this issue. And I have a video clip of him talking about this, I think 2 months ago. Hang on, I want to show you that video clip. I found that earlier. Hold on a second. Right here. This is from November. And this is Trump talking about Nigeria in November. Okay, so this is November when? November 5th, about 2 months ago. Oops, November 5th, here it is. Those were my notes. What I want to show you is Trump's video. I got it right now. I can see it on the screen. I'm going to put it on for you right now. This was back on November 5th. Here's what Trump had to say. You can see the White House. This is from a video. I wonder if I can show you the whole thing here. Hold on a second. This is from the White House YouTube, and they clipped this from a longer video, I think. And I'll show you what it's called. The title of the video on YouTube by the White House is, oh, hold on, you'll see it in a second. Christianity is facing an existential threat in Nigeria, a threat to its existence. That's the title of the clip they pulled out. Christianity is facing an existential threat in Nigeria. And here is what President Trump had to say in this clip. And this was on November 5th.
Christianity is facing an existential threat in Nigeria. Thousands and thousands of Christians are being killed. Radical Islamists are responsible for this mass slaughter. I am hereby making Nigeria a country of particular concern. That's a legal definition. When the Christians or any such group is slaughtered, like is happening in Nigeria, 3,100 versus 4,476 worldwide. What horrible numbers. Something has to be done. I am asking Congressman Riley Moore, together with Chairman Tom Cole and the House Appropriations Committee, to immediately look into this matter and to report back to me. And I mean, like, immediately. The United States cannot stand by while such atrocities are happening in Nigeria and numerous other countries. It's not only Nigeria, it's all over. We stand ready, willing, and able to save our great Christian population around the world. This is not going to happen. The killing of Christians is not going to happen.
So that was November 5th. By the way, I think I made a mistake. I think that actually was not part of a larger video. I thought maybe it was clipped from like a press conference or something. I think it's actually its own video. But anyways, that was November 5th. That was President Trump on November 5th. Okay? President Trump on November 5th. That is literally from the White House. That is from the White House YouTube, guys. There it is. See, it says the White House. 3 million subscribers. That's the video. Okay. Let's see here. Some of our viewers claim it's AI. No, it's not AI. Yes, that's an official White House posted video. Okay, now, All right, so I want to show you a little background here. So I want to play that for you. Anyways, so again, President Trump said today on Truth Social that the U.S. military conducted multiple strikes. He did not elaborate. U.S. Africa Command said multiple Islamic State terrorists were killed. This is in Sokoto State, which is in the northwestern part of Nigeria, bordering, is it Niger? How do you pronounce that country? Niger? I'm going to say Niger, and I may be wrong. It's a different country. And has become a hotspot for a resurgence in violent extremism and the kidnapping of school children. Okay. Hang on a second here. A U.S. defense official said strikes were conducted at 2 locations in Sokoto State, 2 locations in Sokoto State targeting Islamic State Sahel Province, an African branch of the extremist group. All right. And hold on. I'm going to show you that map again. By the way, I looked up in a dictionary and it said Niger or Niger. Or Niger or Niger. Either one of them. One dictionary said that. So pronunciation-wise, I don't know. But anyways, that's not really that important for right now. Here again is the map. We're talking about Sokoto State in northwest Nigeria. And the Post says that... Okay, here's a little background. For months, Trump and Republican lawmakers, including Senator Ted Cruz of Texas and Republicans Tom Cole of Oklahoma, Mario Diaz-Balart of Florida, and Riley Moore of West Virginia, have raised alarms about killings of Christians in Nigeria amid larger ethnic and religious bloodshed. Trump had previously directed the Pentagon to plan potential military action in Nigeria, and earlier this month, the State Department restricted visas for Nigerians involved in the violence. Trump threatened an attack on Nigeria early last month, writing on Truth Social, "If the Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians, the USA will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria and may very well go into that now disgraced country guns a-blazing to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible atrocities," he said back in November. The Washington Post says that post that Trump made followed a meeting in Washington between top advisors and representatives of religious groups, and after Trump watched a Fox News segment on the topic on board Air Force One, the Washington Post reported. The push to make the issue an administration priority was long in the making, according to 3 people with knowledge of the situation, but the president's threat of military action was entirely unprecedented, they said. The Council on Foreign Relations reported earlier this year that the Sahel, a region that spans multiple countries across Central Africa, including Niger, Nigeria, Mali, Chad, and Sudan, has seen a significant uptick in the growth of violent extremist organizations as a result of decreased international counterterrorism support. U.S. forces lost access to key counterterrorism bases in Niger and Chad in 2024. In their place, a surge of proxy military groups, such as the Russian-backed Wagner Group, have filled in. But the Trump administration has been looking at ways to reduce the U.S. role in Africa overall as it shifts to a strategy that will focus on more military assets and attention to the Western Hemisphere. The administration is also looking at potentially consolidating U.S. Africa Command into a theater command that would also include the U.S. European Command and U.S. Central Command, which could further reduce the attention and resources the region would receive. That proposal drew concern from some lawmakers who cautioned against the U.S. pulling back given Africa's young and quickly growing population and economic importance. And Nigeria is a diverse, multi-ethnic country split between the mostly Muslim north and predominantly Christian south. The country's 230 million people, Africa's largest population, are roughly split between Christians and Muslims. While violence has sometimes targeted Christians, it has also deeply affected Muslims, according to Nigerian and Western analysts. Most violence in Nigeria has taken place in the northeast, where the extremist group Boko Haram has regularly attacked churches and kidnapped children for more than a decade as part of its campaign to build an Islamist state through violence. So the military threat to ISIS in Nigeria is something President Trump, I believe, really started emphasizing a couple months ago. Here again, I'll play it one more time. Here's this video from November 5th. This is November 5th, President Trump on November 5th.
Christianity is facing an existential threat in Nigeria. Thousands and thousands of Christians are being killed. Radical Islamists are responsible for this mass slaughter. I am hereby making Nigeria a country of particular concern. That's a legal definition. When the Christians or any such group is slaughtered, like is happening in Nigeria, 3,100 versus 4,476 worldwide. What horrible numbers. Something has to be done. I am asking Congressman Riley Moore, together with Chairman Tom Cole and the House Appropriations Committee, to immediately look into this matter and to report back to me. And I mean, like, immediately. The United States cannot stand by while such atrocities are happening in Nigeria and numerous other countries. It's not only Nigeria, it's all over. We stand ready, willing, and able to save our great Christian population around the world. This is not going to happen. The killing of Christians is not going to happen.
Again, that was 2 months ago, basically, almost 2 months ago. All right, I want to take some comments from you guys. There's also, like, I'm not really familiar with the debate, but you can read, there's articles about the debate online about to what degree, how many Christians are being killed in Nigeria, and to what degree they're targeting for their religion or not. These are debated things, and I see different things about this, and articles about the debate over this. BBC had an article on November 6th, I think shortly after Trump, the day after Trump made that announcement. The BBC article, I haven't read the whole article, but they say that for months, campaigners and politicians in Washington have been alleging that Islamist militants were systematically targeting Christians in Nigeria. The BBC has found that some of the data being relied on to come to this conclusion are difficult to verify. You know, so there's debate about all of this. And they also point out that the Nigerian government does not deny that there's deadly violence in the country, but they debate to how much is specifically targeted at Christians for being Christian. And in this, I'll post a link to, you can look it up. It's called "Are Christians Being Persecuted in Nigeria as Trump Claims?" So I'll actually post a link to the article and you can read it if you want. But they talk about how different people and different groups have come out with different numbers. So, I'm not an expert in this region. But that's one example of some reporting about some background on this. And I want to take some comments on there too. I got to take some more comments from you. Something else I want to show you too. Now, Thug Aim says anything to keep his base dedicated to him. It's literally just a PR strike. That's what Thug Aim says. Our viewer OO says Nigeria issued a statement. This was a joint effort. Are people seriously questioning this? Songbird thinks things will pop off all over the world now that holidays are ending. Bugaboo thinks there's a genocide of Christians around the world. Sidewalk Connoisseur says, was there an imminent threat that warranted bomb strikes? Susie Levine Alfaro thinks Trump is acting like Benjamin Netanyahu. Druggy thinks it's mostly Muslims being killed there by jihadists. Tim Dunn says protect the Christians. Let's see here. Howie, our viewer, thinks that China has significant and broad involvement in Nigeria. He said he saw something about that on Gemini. But it sounds like Howie thinks maybe there's articles you can find about Nigeria connection with China. So I guess there's this, some of our chat, I think, was talking about this question of does the U.S. want to get more involved in Nigeria to keep China out or something. I am not an expert on China-Nigeria relations, by the way. Wikipedia says that relations between Nigeria and China have expanded on growing bilateral trade and strategic cooperation. China is one of Nigeria's most important trading and export partners. Thanks, Howie, for writing in. Venom King says, how long will this action last and what time do the strikes happen? We don't know specifically what time they happen. They happened before Trump posted about it, which was, I think, 5:59 Eastern time. How long will the action last? I have no idea. We did a poll earlier in the stream, and about over 80% of the voters in our poll, in our chat who voted, thought there would be more U.S. military action in Nigeria. Can't tell you. Will there be more strikes? I mean, would the U.S. ever consider doing some kind of land action or have troops on the ground even temporarily? I'm sure it's politically difficult to do that, but I don't know. Whatchamacallit says, Christians have been slaughtered in Nigeria. Many Christians have been screaming from the rooftops about this, and crickets from the media, Whatchamacallit says. Hold on a second here. Wickedest Witch found an article about a 2020 U.S. Special Operations Forces rescuing an American hostage in Nigeria. Yeah, again, I'm not aware at this point. I might be, I don't know, but it's possible this is the first direct U.S. military strike in Nigeria ever. Stephen 2025 says, I am glad strikes happen against ISIS in Nigeria and other countries where they occur. And hold on a moment here. I think I would be remiss if I didn't talk about this debate, the debate over this whole topic. I want to mention that. By the way, our viewer Michael Lauzon says, I'm all for taking out ISIS, but not if it's going to be replaced by the United States. That's what Michelle Lauzon said that. Hang on a moment. Justin Amash, who's a former member of Congress. So here's somebody who thinks that Congress should it's up to, that this strike is not constitutional because Congress did not approve it. Now, you don't have to agree with this. I'm just going to show you. This is somebody. This is the view of somebody who thinks that this was not constitutional to have this strike, given the lack of congressional approval. You can agree or disagree. Justin Amash said, there's no authority for strikes on terrorists in Nigeria or anywhere on earth. The 2001 authorization of military force is only for the perpetrators of the 9/11 attacks. The War Powers Resolution doesn't grant any authority beyond the Constitution. Offensive military actions need congressional approval. The framers of the Constitution divided war powers to protect the American people from war-eager executives. Whether the U.S. should engage in conflicts across the globe is a decision for the people's representatives in Congress, not the president. That's what he thinks. So I'm just throwing that out there as a whole other debated topic around this. And hang on a moment. The Economist had just an interesting article about, it was before today, but about this debate over this topic. And I just want to mention some of it. Hang on one second here. Again, I'm not going to tell you what to think about the debate, but I would be remiss, I would be negligent if I did not mention the debate. We mentioned it a bit, but I want to talk about it a bit more. And remember, as background here, as background here, just to mention this one more time, as the Washington Post said, where did it go? Where did my article go? Hold on, I'll get it up, pull it up here. As the Washington Post said, as background, for months, Trump and Republican lawmakers, including Senator Ted Cruz of Texas and Representatives Tom Cole of Oklahoma, Mario Diaz-Balart of Florida, and Riley Moore of West Virginia, have raised alarms about killings of Christians in Nigeria amid larger ethnic and religious bloodshed. Trump had previously directed the Pentagon to plan potential military action in Nigeria, and earlier this month, the State Department restricted visas for Nigerians involved in the violence. Trump threatened an attack in Nigeria early last month on Truth Social. His post followed a meeting where he said if the Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians, the USA will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria and may very well go into that now disgraced country, guns a-blazing, to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible atrocities. His post followed a meeting in Washington between top advisors and representatives of religious groups, and after he watched a Fox News segment on the topic on board Air Force One. So let me show you his post. That's the post from today. So The Economist had an article where they talked about some of this debate over what's happening, how much of the violence against Christians is actually targeted at them for religious reasons or for other reasons, and this whole topic here. So just to give you a little just a little sense of some of this debate, whatever you side you're on and what you think about this, or maybe you're not on a side. They have an article. They say, just to give you a little, I'll post a link to the article so you can look at it. But just to give you a little kind of summary of some of the things they say. So In this article, which came out in November, in early November, the day after President Trump did that video I showed you a little earlier, where he threatened to carry out military action in Nigeria. The Economist said the idea of a Christian genocide in Nigeria has gained traction in conservative circles in America. There are parallels with the so-called white genocide in South Africa, another subject to have received Mr. Trump's attention via right-wing TV and lobbying in Washington by Africans with agendas at home. In both cases, The Economist thinks, in both cases, although there is a kernel of truth, the specific claims are mostly wild exaggerations. This is what The Economist thinks. Now, The Economist says that Nigeria has three major security crises. They have terrorism by jihadist groups. They have widespread banditry and kidnapping. There's conflict between groups of herders and farmers. These conflicts, they say, these crises can involve Muslims murdering Christians, but they also involved Muslims and Christians killing Muslims. And the causes of violence, says The Economist, are often factors other than religion, like ethnicity, party politics, or disputes over land. They talked to the head of a Nigerian NGO who told them that this is not religious violence, even if it has the appearance of it, the semblance of it. This NGO, the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data, an American Monitor, the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data, estimates that since 2020, armed groups targeted civilians on 12,000 occasions in Nigeria, leading to nearly 21,000 civilian deaths. Yet that group reckons that there have been fewer than 400 cases where Christians were targeted for their faith, with fewer than 500 reported deaths on those occasions. So that's, in their estimate, the number of Christians number of times Christians were targeted specifically for being Christian. So I'll post a link to this article. And my point is that you don't have to believe what The Economist's view on this is. But my point is it's a debated question. There certainly is a lot of violence against civilians by armed groups in Nigeria. But is there this epidemic, this genocide kind of thing going on against Christians? Or is the violence against Christians more of just a general violence which mostly arises from non-religious causes? Now, I can't tell you. I'm not an expert on Nigeria. I'm just, for full information, I wanted to just touch on that debate in this stream. If you want, I'll post a link to the Economist article if you want to read it. It might be paywalled, but they might have a thing where you can just read. You can read an article, like if you register a couple free articles or something like that. And by the way, The Economist in the article said Trump is right to suggest Nigerian governments have done too little to tackle insecurity. Okay. So I wanted to just let you know about the debate. There's a whole debate about it. I'm not going to get into it all here. I'm not an expert on it. Let me take a few more comments from you guys on this. So we'll have to see where this all goes. Oh, there's a little, and also if you didn't see it, here's the video that the Department of War released of a missile being fired from a ship, apparently in this attack. It's a 9-second video. Okay. Crispy thinks Nigeria is thanking the U.S. Elemental Grow says, I have something to do for a couple hours. Is this starting a war in Africa now? look, there's not a war. This has not started a war in Africa at this point. And again, it's possible. It's possible this was a few missiles in a remote area of Northwest Africa that didn't even do much damage. We don't know. We're not getting specifics. The U.S. military says they think that a number of ISIS militants were killed, but they said they're not going to release specific details about the operation. So, is this meant to be just a one-off kind of thing, or is it the start of something bigger? Beats me. I don't know. Mike H says, we want video. The Furio said, did Nigerian officials know about the attack? The U.S. and Nigeria said it was done in coordination. But I still don't know. As I said before, they can say that. I also don't, but I don't know if the U.S. just did this. There might be political reasons for Nigeria to not want to say. The Nigerian government might not like the look of saying, "Hey, the U.S. just carried out an attack in our territory and we didn't know about it." So I don't know what the real deal with this is. You can, in their statement about this, which we read earlier, they said that they really emphasized that this is cooperation between the U.S. and Nigeria. Nigerian authorities remain engaged in structured security cooperation with international partners, including the U.S. This cooperation has led to precision hits on terrorist targets in Nigeria by airstrikes in the northwest. They talk about cooperation. And then they even say terrorist violence in any forms. They say that all counterterrorism efforts are guided by the primacy of protecting civilian lives, safeguarding national unity, and upholding the rights and dignity of all civilians, irrespective of faith or ethnicity. Terrorist violence in any form, whether directed at Christians, Muslims, or other communities, remains an affront to Nigeria's values and to international peace and security. So President Trump said this is about targeting ISIS because they're targeting Christians. Nigeria says this is about targeting terrorists who target all kinds of religious groups and all kinds of groups in our country. And it's not about just protecting Christians. Okay, anyways, but they say it's cooperative. How cooperative was it? I honestly don't know. And remember that President Trump's post from 2 months ago basically said, hey, Nigerian government, you're not doing enough about this. If you keep not doing enough, well, I'm going to do something about it. Which was, I'll show you that right here. Here was his post from November. I don't know when exactly this was from, but Pete Hegseth posted about this on November 1st. So I believe this was right around then. That's my belief. But he said, if the Nigerian government continues to allow, Trump said, if the Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians, the USA will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria and may very well go into that now disgraced country guns a-blazing. And he said, I'm hereby instructing our Department of War to prepare for possible action. If we attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet. So, again, one way of reasoning this is that, well, if the Nigerian government doesn't do enough, we're going to start attacking. So, based on that, you might think that the U.S. thinks that the U.S. attack tonight was because they didn't think the Nigerian government was doing enough. But who knows? I don't know. Holly Hawk thinks this is a major attempt at distraction from the Epstein files. All right, we'll take a few more comments here. It's a very interesting topic, and there's a lot going on with it. But there's a lot we don't know about this strike that happened. 5 Celt says, clear and present danger. Yeah, and I shouldn't have to say this. I'm just going to say it real quick. So I see a number of comments in the chat like, Steve is denying something happened. I mean, clearly what happened is I read you a couple reports saying as I said, there's debate over this issue. I read you a BBC report that talks about how it's debated, how it said that there's facts that can't be verified, and it's a debated topic. I read you a report in The Economist. I said, I'm not telling you what to think about it. And they cited a source that said, well, killings are going on, but they're going on for other reasons. And I obviously never said that, here's what you should think, here's what's going on. So, just to be clear, I mean, anyone who was listening to the broadcast and not doing something else would have clearly heard me say that, okay? So, what can I say? If people are not going to listen to what I said and put words in my mouth, that's your choice. But, I mean, I think I've been quite clear about what I'm saying. All right, so... let's see. DSKF3YC says, symbolic strike anyway, trying to save Christians and others on Christmas. Crime expert says, what about Sudan? I can't really intelligently comment on this, but it's an interesting question of, well, are there similar situations going on in other countries? And so, I mean, President Trump said in those remarks on November 5th, this is happening in other countries. Would the United States carry out military strikes like this in other countries for the same reason? Don't know. Okay, let's see here. Stoicite said, odd that there's no statement from Nigeria corroborating Trump's claims. I believe there has been pushback from the Nigerian government about Trump's claims about what's going on in Nigeria. Yeah, so for example, speaking of which, here's the Reuters article. U.S. says it struck Islamic State militants in northwest Nigeria. Nigeria's government has said armed groups target both Muslims and Christians, and that U.S. claims that Christians face persecution do not represent the complex security situation and ignore efforts to safeguard religious freedom. But it has agreed to work with the U.S. to bolster its forces against militant groups. So again, the issue is the government is not denying that there's a problem with armed groups targeting civilians, including Christians. The government is pushing back on, as I understand it, on President Trump and others' claims that Christians, there's this huge movement to target Christians because they are Christian, and that in Nigeria has a huge, persecution of Christians as Christians problem, rather than a civilian violence, including against Christians problem. Let's see here. Yeah, Trump in late October began warning that Christianity faces an existential crisis in Nigeria and threatened to military intervene in Nigeria over what he says is a failure to stop violence targeting Christian communities. Okay. Vilmorregar, our viewer, thinks they are killing civilians across the board, Christian, Muslim, and otherwise. Did I have something here? Hold on. There was something else I was going to show you here. So this is a U.S. government organization put out a report, and this was this in November? Hold on. I'll give you a link to this too. So the U.S. CIRF is the U.S. government organization, U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom. The U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, which is a U.S. government organization. And they put out a report. This is their 2025 report. I don't know exactly when this came out. And it says, they recommended designating Nigeria as a country of particular concern for engaging in and tolerating systematic, ongoing, and egregious violations of religious freedom. Do they talk about specifics here? Hold on a second here. Let me... I was trying to read some specifics here about the attacks on Christianity and see if they have overall facts. But I'll post a link to this. But I was trying to see if they just kind of summarize things. Then this was from August 2024, religious freedom conditions in Nigeria, U.S. government thing. Anyways, if you want to read a couple of government things about religious freedom in Nigeria, U.S. government things, I will post links to these two documents in the chat. I haven't had a chance to really go over them in detail. But I was trying to give you that side of things. Anyways, you can look it up if you want to after the stream and get more background on this. I'm not an expert on the region, on the country, and the religious issues there. Waldo says, why didn't Nigeria drop the bombs? These strikes were carried out today. Do we know how many targets were hit? DeFurio said, no. The Washington Post had a report that 2 sites were hit. But we don't really know. 2 locations were strikes at 2 locations, according to a U.S. defense official. And then let me see. Hold on. Let me just check something else here. Oh, there's an update from the New York Times. The New York Times reports that the strike involved more than a dozen Tomahawk cruise missiles fired off a Navy ship. And it involved hitting 2 ISIS camps in Sokoto State in northwest Nigeria. Okay? So the New York Times is reporting that there were more than a dozen Tomahawk cruise missiles that were fired. But like the Post, they're saying that there were 2 ISIS camps that were targeted. And let's see, hold on a second here. I was just seeing if there's any other updates about... Oh, I have a statement from a new statement from a Nigerian official, I think. Hang on. Yes, I have a statement here. Daniel Bawala, who's an advisor to the Nigerian president, said to the Washington Post, Nigeria's government welcomes security help from the U.S., but he disputed that the Nigerian government is allowing the killing of Christians specifically, as Trump and other Republican lawmakers have stated. Also, oh, I'm sorry. That wasn't a statement. That wasn't a statement to the Post. That was a statement that was reported by the Post. So that's an advisor to the president. He didn't say that to the Post, but previously he has said, this advisor to the president, that Nigeria's government welcomes security help from the U.S., but he has disputed that the government is allowing the killings of Christians, specifically as Trump and other Republican lawmakers have stated. And here's what he said to the Post. He gave a statement to the Post today, and he told the Washington Post, this advisor to the Nigerian president told the Washington Post, that the Nigerian government considers the repeated emphasis on Christian killings as needless because, firstly, terrorists don't target any particular religion, and secondly, the rhetoric along that line will only feed into the desire of the terrorists to further create a broader crisis. So what it's the issue, a big issue of the Nigerian government is not with saying that there's security issues with Nigeria. The big issue they're talking about here is claiming that the Nigerian government is okay with Christians being targeted and has some anti-Christian bias, and the claims that this violence is specifically targeting Christians rather than a problem of violence for other causes that Christians get swept up in. I'm just telling you that this is a statement I just wanted to give you a further statement from the Nigerian government there. Okay, so that just came out. Let's see if there's anything else I see updated here. As I mentioned, the New York Times is reporting it involved more than a dozen Tomahawk cruise missiles. And then, like the Post, the New York Times pointed out that for months, there have been allegations by Christian groups and senior Republicans that Christians are being targeted in widespread violence in Nigeria. And the Times points out that Nigerian authorities say there's not a Christian genocide going on, and they say that Nigerian authorities say that there's there's a web of violent armed groups with many different motives, and the violence in the country kills as many Muslims as Christians. Hey, by the way, I want to say a quick thanks to hang on. Hold on a moment. Hold on a moment here. Brian Beelman. Hey, Brian, it's so nice of you. Brian's been so generous. Brian, that's extremely generous of you. Thank you so much, Brian. Very, very generous of you. Really appreciate all of your support, Brian Beelman. Thank you for supporting the channel. Also, thanks 86 GOP Forever for your support. Thank you so much. 86 GOP for your generous support. 86 GOP Forever says, let me make this simple to understand. ISIS and other similar terrorist organizations attempt to kill everyone. Thank you, Durka, who says, I'm curious to hear what excuse media is going to say about us bombing ISIS terrorist locations that are murdering Christians just for their faith. That's what Durka84 says. Thank you, Durka84. Also, thanks to Bass303, who says, no matter the faith, I thought he was getting away from helping anyone for free. It's keeping influence from China or Wagner Group is it pronounced, or something similar. So Bass303 thinks this strike is actually about keeping American influence in Nigeria and keeping influence in Nigeria away from someone else. Thanks so much to JD63 for your support, by the way. And Jason D in California, and Jason's fiance Jessica, thank you. Also, Heavenly Intervention, and Otis 0024, thank you, Otis. And also Piemans, who thinks ISIS is targeting Muslims and Christians and anyone who gets in their way. So it's not a target of Christians for being Christian. That's what Piemans think. Let me read some more comments here from you guys. Los Gatos de Wilson says, won't this strike promote more radicalization? Lee Wells says, this has been going on for months. I believe Lee is saying in Nigeria. It has been on the news on CBN News. The Sparky Pilot says they target anyone and even other Muslims who don't agree with their extreme views. Random Adam says there is also a genocide going on in Sudan and Africa. Let's see. Marine Boy says America is flexing the mighty war machine. By the way, thanks again to thanks again. I appreciate everybody watching, but I want to say Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everybody watching. I hope everybody's been having a good holiday, those who've been celebrating it. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Hold on a moment here. I was going to check something else. There might be new reporting coming out about this in the next couple of days. I mean, there's so little specifics that we've heard about this attack so far. So maybe we'll hear more in the coming days. Hang on a moment here. Let's see here. Fox News said Senator Tom Cotton, Republican of Arkansas, said, I commend President Trump, Secretary Hegseth, and our brave troops for these strikes against bloodthirsty ISIS savages who are not only persecuting Christians but have killed many Americans. Fox News says there has been a surge of attacks on Christians and Christian institutions in Nigeria. I was looking to see if Fox had anything else about the actual attack, but I don't see it there. You know, the Wall Street Journal also says that Trump's base within the U.S. Christian political right has been calling for America to take action against the killings of Christians in Nigeria. They also point out that some activists call this a Christian genocide, although the White House has not used that language. The Nigerian government denies that there's a Christian genocide going on, by the way, as we've talked about. They say that the situation is more complex, and a lot of the violence is not religious in nature. Oh, thanks, by the way. 86 GOP Forever just gave, wow, 50 more of you. Memberships in the YouTube chat. That's super nice of you. Thank you so much. Between 86 GOP Forever and Brian Bielman, I think there have been hundreds of new members. And a number of our other viewers have given memberships too. Hundreds of new members, which is great. So make sure you thank somebody if they give you memberships. K Body gave 10 people memberships. Thank you, Kay, in our YouTube chat. So make sure you thank people if they're giving you memberships or subscriptions. And thanks so much to Eamon O'Leary. That's so kind of you, Eamon. Wow, that's really nice of you. Very generous. Thank you, Eamon O'Leary, for your support. And also thanks to Piemans. Pieman says, this is what Pieman says. Pieman says in Sudan, Muslims are fighting other Muslims in the north, and Christians are fighting other Christians in the south. Central Africa is violent, says Piemans. Thank you, Piemans. Also, thanks to Desi on Twitch, Moeth on Twitch, Yup, and Yup on Twitch for your support, and John Deeds on Twitch. Thank you, John Deeds. and also Oxytropis and Big Dog Gaming. And Dirty Toxin gave a sub to Idaho Star. Thanks, Dirty Toxin, for the gift sub. Also, thanks to Toolman Tim for your support. I wonder, maybe there'll be a State Department briefing or a Pentagon briefing where they'll answer questions about this. I mean, there'll probably be a White House briefing in the next few days. Although I don't know, because it's kind of like Christmas breaky thing. So there's been no briefing at the moment by anyone in the government to take questions about this action. And hold on a second here. I was just checking if there was any new reporting on this. But I wonder if there will be more strikes. One moment here. One moment here. Maybe the U.S. government will release some more video of this. That I don't know. We only have that 1 9-second clip of a missile being fired from a ship. That's all I've seen so far. Oh, and thanks again to, by the way, 86 GOP Forever. Incredibly generous of you. And thanks for shouting out our mods, 80 and the other supporters. 86 GOP Forever, thank you so much. And also, Brian Beelman just gave 20 more people memberships. Crazy. Thank you so much, Brian. That's really nice of you. Make sure you thank Brian if he gave you a membership. Brian Beelman and 86 GOP Forever. Really, thanks. I appreciate it. Also, I'll say Schwillies B over on Twitch, thank you. And Twit or Not on Twitch, thank you. And Warlord Gord, thank you. And Neko Jita, thank you on Twitch. Let me read a few more comments from you guys on this situation. And S. Stern 42 gave out 5 gift subs on Twitch. Make sure you thank S. Stern. Thank you for your support. The level 2, what do they call it on Twitch? I forget. The hype something. Hype train. Thank you, Twitch supporters. I appreciate that. Okay, let's check something here. Yeah, I feel like there's going to be more coming out on this in the coming days. It's, it happened on Christmas, so. Oh, anything here? Is Nigeria mentioned in this article? For what it's worth, Reuters said oil rises slightly as market weighs supply risks. Oil prices rose slightly today after the U.S. put greater pressure on Venezuelan oil shipments and carried out airstrikes against ISIS in northwest Nigeria. Now, this says at the request of the government. I don't know about that. I've seen a couple mentions of this. The U.S. did not officially say that, and I don't believe that the Nigerian government statement said that. At the request of the Nigerian government, this article says, both Venezuela and Nigeria are major oil producers. While Nigeria's oil fields are mainly located in the south of the country, the airstrikes added to geopolitical risks. Also, this is a very interesting report. Overall, though, oil prices are on course for their steepest annual decline since 2020 as investors weigh U.S. economic growth and assess the risk of supply disruptions, including in Venezuela. Hold on a second. So something else I want to mention about Venezuela. Reuters had a very interesting report about Venezuela, and it's not the topic of this broadcast, but I did want to quickly mention it. So this was a report that Reuters came out with yesterday about Venezuela, that the White House is ordering the military to focus on a quarantine and not immediately on a military action. Now, who knows what the truth is? Reuters reported yesterday that the White House ordered U.S. military forces to focus almost exclusively on enforcing a quarantine of Venezuelan oil, at least for the next 2 months, a U.S. official told Reuters, indicating Washington is currently more interested in using economic rather than military means to pressure Caracas. The official said that while military options still exist, the focus is to first use economic pressure by enforcing sanctions to reach the outcome the White House is looking for. While President Trump has been publicly coy about his precise aims regarding Venezuela, he has privately pressured President of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, to flee the nation, Reuters has reported. The official told the Reuters, the efforts so far have put tremendous pressure on Maduro, and the belief is that by late January, Venezuela will be facing an economic calamity unless it agrees to make significant concessions to the U.S. Anyways, I don't know if this is true, but this report basically says that for the next couple months, the U.S. is going to focus on keeping the oil from being shipped out of Venezuela, and them so they can't sell their oil, which is the hugest part of their economy by far. So I just wanted to I forgot about that report had come out yesterday, so I wanted to mention that. Is that true? That the U.S. is basically going to focus on that for 2 months? I don't know. But sorry, I know it's a little off topic. This was also interesting, by the way. 3 days ago, on December 22nd, Reuters reported that the U.S. was conducting surveillance flights over Nigeria. This is 3 days ago, after Trump intervention threat. But now that we know that there's been strikes that happened today, that was 3 days ago. By the way, thanks Justin King, our member. Let's see here. Ninun thinks Trump is trying to artificially increase the price of oil so his master Putin's exports are worth more. Stephen F. FGDL thinks Venezuela is already in an economic calamity. Let's see here. Wilma Flintstone says, of course, it's all about oil. Although I don't know if she's talking about Nigeria or Venezuela. Salmonut says about the Nigeria strikes, attack a terror group that was claimed to be 100% defeated, lies. Breezy says it's strange there are no photos or footage, but maybe the attack was in a remote area. You're saying like photos or footage that third parties might have taken. Nick Long says anything to cover up Epstein. So again, 3 days ago, Reuters had been reporting that the U.S. was conducting intelligence gathering flights over Nigeria and had been doing so since late November, according to flight tracking data and current and former U.S. officials. They said the flights in West Africa, this was 3 days ago, follow President Trump's threats in November to military intervene in Nigeria over what he says is a failure to stop violence targeting Christian communities. Okay. All right. Well, big question now is what happens next? Anything? Is this a one-off? If there's more violence in Nigeria, which there presumably will be by armed groups, and Christians get killed for whatever reason, might President Trump do something again or increase what he's doing in doing something more intense? Military-wise? There's an article I need to read too about just Trump's use of the military in general. So we have these strikes, and we had the strikes in Iran on the nuclear sites. What else was recent? Wasn't there something else recent? I'm forgetting. The strikes on the boats, the strikes on the alleged drug boats. A lot of military activity. Future Man says, how much does each missile cost? Always Chasing the Rain says, this is crazy. Rock Girl Day says, Nigeria is a corrupt and dangerous place. John Halley says, U.S. never minds its own business. I'm very interested to see what ends up being reported about this in the coming days, and what more we learn about it. Another thing I don't understand, a question I had, is how is this looked on in Nigeria? Like, I just don't know. Like, people in Nigeria, when something like this happens, are they like, awesome, thank you, U.S., for helping out? Or are they like, why are you conducting military strikes in our country? Maybe it's just a big mix. I don't know politically how that is, how it plays in Nigeria, and how it impacts Nigerian-U.S. relations. Andy Austin said he read on ChatGPT that there were an estimated over 7,000 Christian deaths in Nigeria in 2025. Now, I can't confirm that figure. Thanks, Andy. Also, that doesn't say, like, are those Christian deaths of people who were killed for being Christian, or perhaps were caught up in violence that was being done for some other reason. Thanks, Andy, for messaging in. Okay. L.R. Heisbay says striking another country during Christmas is crazy. Another interesting question about this. Was there a certain window of opportunity that happened to be on Christmas? Was doing it on Christmas intended to make a statement in some sort of way? I don't know. It's interesting that it did happen on Christmas and was announced on Christmas. Brondo Bro says, how would you feel if another country bombed us for religious reasons? Honey Buncho Slugs thinks their government is scared of being implicated. Captain McAbull says that maybe it's not about oil. How about giving America and Trump the benefit of the doubt for once? Oh, I think he's talking about Venezuela. Captain McAbull says we just want Venezuela to be a real democracy. And then he says, like our friends Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and UAE. So I think Captain McAbull was talking about Venezuela, but then questioning whether it was really about democracy in Venezuela. That's a different topic, though. By the way, real quick, shout out to our Twitch subscribers like Matthew Kohai 3, ZZYGYY, Honey Bunch of Slugs, Wall Street and Shaggy, Twit or Not. Just want to give a quick shout out. Douthis, Gina Pina, and also, who else? Mudmore's over there right now. And S Stern 42. And also our Facebook subscribers, want to shout out some of them, like Robert Rial II and Sharon Klassen Goslin and Diane Allworth and Kay Lowry, Body, Margaret Riley. Hey, thanks, Margaret Riley, for the Facebook stars. That's very nice of you, Margaret. Thank you. And all of our other Facebook subscribers. I thanked some earlier, I think. All right, guys, I don't know that I have any more that I can really report on this right now. I've tried to give you kind of a sense of the general idea of what happened and also some background on this. And just a basic sense of some of the debates going on about this whole topic. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of interesting aspects to this whole topic, but I'm not an expert on them, but at least maybe we brought some up. And certainly I'll keep an eye on this, and if there's big news on it, I mean, if there's huge news, we can always do it, or another strike or something, we can always cover it again. But maybe it'll come up, or we'll be covering something else and it'll come up. Or maybe we'll cover like a Trump press conference or something, and he'll talk about it, and we can talk about it. But I think that's really the latest I'm seeing right now on this. So anyways, I really appreciate you. Jim Bob thinks the only statement Trump is trying to make is to not look at the Epstein files. Anyways, so a lot of different opinions here in our chat, and I really appreciate our moderators who allow us to have chat rooms. We'll thank them again. We'll thank them in a second. Thanks to all of our YouTube members. I'll thank you in a second. We will have more coverage as things develop. And I wish I knew for sure whether, but I don't have a firm answer on whether this is the first U.S. direct military strike ever in Nigeria. I think it might be. No one's given me information that shows that it wasn't, but I just don't know. But if you want, you can rewind. If you missed the broadcast, if you're just getting here, if you missed it, rewind and watch it, and you can check it out. All right, so I am going to wrap up this live stream. I think one thing that was just mentioned. Oh, I really quickly, I'll mention this. One of our viewers said Netanyahu recently mentioned Nigeria. So, for example, Business Insider Africa had an article saying that Netanyahu condemned what he described as the persecution and killing of Christians in Nigeria. I don't want to get into all of that now, though. But you can Google that and look up to see what he said about Nigeria recently. Anyways. Hey, so that is it for now. If there's other huge news later tonight, we'll come back on the air. This is Agenda Free TV. We cover all kinds of live breaking news without an agenda. So if you want, you can subscribe, follow the channel, Agenda Free TV. And I would suggest turn on notifications because I never know when big news is going to happen and when we're going to have to jump on the air to do a live stream. So I can't tell you in advance our schedule, but you can sign up for the free notifications to get a notification whenever we go live so you don't miss breaking news coverage. The best notifications are the Discord ones. They're free. The mods will post a link to sign up for those, and you can also find the notification sign up link in the YouTube and Facebook descriptions of this broadcast. Also, I will post updates, news updates, when I'm not on the air on my X account, which is at Lookner on X. You can follow me over there. I cover breaking news over there. If you're on X, at Lookner on X. And hold on a moment here. And I want to really shout out our mods for being here. Thanks, especially mods here, even on Christmas Day or Christmas Day night. We had mods in the chat rooms, and they're the ones that really allow us to have our chat. So thank you, moderators. A lot of different opinions tonight, but it's great that we have a chat where people with different opinions can discuss things. But our mods are the ones keeping it under control there. Roberts, May Queen, Ruth, Janet B, Cynthia Moon, over there on YouTube, and all of our other YouTube moderators. Thank you so much. And Linda Belk, Larry, and Misha on X. And on Twitch, Idaho Star and Sarah, I Got That Fire, 13 Alamo, Matthew Kohai 3, thank you. And K. Lowry Body, Margaret Riley on Facebook. And all of our other mods. Hopefully I got everybody. By the way, I forgot to thank, no, I think I thanked them before. I'll thank them again. But thank you to all of our moderators. And thanks to everybody who sent me updates and let me read your comments on the air, and for those who participated in the chat. I want to mention another good way to find out when we're live. Follow us on X. If you're on X, I always post there before we go live at Agenda Free TV on X. And you know what? I didn't say thanks. I'm behind. I forgot. Hold on. Hey, I got a special shout out again. I was thanking people before during the broadcast. Special shout out to everybody who donated. That is super nice of you guys. I owe a few more thank yous here. So I owe a thank you to, hold on. I owe another thank you to Crispy. Crispy, thanks so much for your support. Sausage, thanks so much for your support. Roberts May Queen for being a member. And also over on Twitch, John Deeds, thanks. Thanks so much, John Deeds and Sharkingly and Neko Jita for subscribing, and Estern42 and Yup. And all of our supporters I thanked earlier. That's really kind of you. Thanks for your support of the channel. That's really nice of you. That's what allows the channel to exist. Special shout out to 86 GOP Forever and Brian Beelman and Lewis R. And everybody else who donated. Really appreciate your support for the channel, so thank you. And thanks, Ruth, for being a member too. If you ever want to donate to the channel, you can go to agendafree.tv, agendafree.tv. But again, thanks so much. And very much appreciated. You are the ones who allow the channel to exist, so thank you. And also our members, Just Me and Salmon Nuts over there. We do have a chat where you can chat with other viewers when we're not live, our Discord chat. It's free, the Discord chat. A bunch of our viewers like doing that. If you want to check out the Discord chat, it's the same link as the free notifications link. So you can check that out over there. And thanks to our Discord mods for all your help on Discord. And if you do watch on YouTube, I do want to mention, for those who watch on YouTube, the YouTube notifications, another good way to find out when we're live. For those who watch on YouTube, it's a little strange, a little tricky to turn on notifications. You got to subscribe to the channel, then you got to click this bell, and then you got to choose all notifications. So if you have subscribed, make sure you click the bell and choose all notifications. All right, now I also want to shout out our YouTube members. Thanks to all of our YouTube members. A lot of new members tonight. We had a lot of memberships given by people like 86 GOP Forever and Brian Beelman and others. Miss Kate, John Venturini, CAC, JD63, It's Becca Lilly, Mason D, thanks for being members, Salmonuts, SNN, Rock Girl Days, Chris N, Gary Baines, Tace Vim, John Venturini, Mason D, Storm Laughter, and all of our other YouTube members. Thank you. Huge thanks. And thanks to all the Twitch support and the hype train on Twitch tonight. So nice of you. John Deeds. John says, Merry Christmas, everyone. Thank you, John, and everybody else on Twitch for your support. And our Twitch subscribers, again, I'll just shout some of them out again. Matthew Kohai 3, Wall Street, Shaggy, Amelian, Douthis, ZZGGYY, Relila, Honey Bunch of Slugs, Tatermong, No Goal, Twit or Not, Drunk Can't Cook, Sentient Cannabis, Mudmore, and all of our other subscribers on Twitch. Thank you. And our YouTube subscribers. Randy Economy, Marie Goodson Hamilton. Hey, Paul Anderson was modding too. Thanks, Paul. Margaret Riley, Kay Lowry, Body, Shannon Glass, and Goslin. Thanks, Kay, for the Facebook stars. Thank you, Kay. I appreciate that. Thank you. And the memberships. Let's see here. Melody Moody. Oh, I missed Melody Moody. I don't know if she's still there. Melody Moody, thanks for the Facebook stars. All right. So, sorry we don't have more details yet about this actual attack. Maybe more will come out. Very little. But who knows what we'll hear, and who knows if there'll be more. All right, guys. So that is it for now. Really appreciate everybody else watching as well. People like Brandon. And Kathy Grant says, wouldn't it have been the 26th in Nigeria? Well, when President Trump first said it, he said that in his, I understand your question, but he said in his statement about this that it was he said tonight there was. So, I mean, I read this as Christmas, and then I think, didn't Pete Hegseth said they find out on Christmas? So it seemed like, I mean, I know what you're saying because of the time zone difference. Yeah, Pete Hegseth said they found out tonight on Christmas. Now, I guess in theory it could have been nighttime, U.S. time, and, you know, with the time difference there. I understand the question, but the U.S. government's saying it was on Christmas. The time difference is 6 hours. Actually, you know what? It could not have been. It's impossible. The time difference is smaller than I thought. It's a 6-hour time difference. President Trump posted at 5:59 p.m. Eastern Time. President Trump posted at 11:59 p.m. Christmas Day Nigeria time. So it is impossible that it was late. It was not on Christmas Day. It would not have been on the 26th. Interesting. Okay. Anthony Wagner, thanks for watching. Merry Christmas and happy holidays, everybody. And we did a little Christmas stream last night on my personal channel, Christmas Eve stream. We may do a little one for New Year's. So if you didn't know, I do have a personal channel. Once in a while, I'm over there. It's Lookner on YouTube and Look Nerd with a D on Twitch. So if you feel like it, you can stop over there, check that out. And on New Year's Eve, check in and see if we're doing a stream over there. We very well might. All right. It's time. Thank you to Jarrett Najalki for watching. Also, Brian Shy. Appreciate people tuning in on the holiday. Kelly Reed Lacefield. Sean Ledbetter, and others. All right, that is it for now. You've been watching our live coverage. By the way, our viewer Grayling says, can't we just all be like all like, let's be friends and join hands. So that is it for now. Thanks for watching our coverage of the U.S. strikes on ISIS in Nigeria. And I will let you know updates on X, and who knows, maybe here when I see them on this story. But that is it for now. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon with more live breaking news coverage right here at Agenda Free TV.